Welcome back to the channel. Obviously, if you clicked on this video, we're talking about breaking down a new lake and figuring out how to find fish in a body of water you've never seen or fished before. So for me, there's a couple of steps that go through this, and it starts usually the night before. You got to do a lot of research on that pond. You got to find out depth throughout it. You got to factor in what time of year it is and what those fish, from a ballpark, from a broad standpoint. Obviously every different pond, every different lake fishes very differently, but you got to take that broad standpoint. Okay, it's late spring, mid-spring, mid-summer, what those largemouth are doing kind of as a whole, and then you got to filter that back into this specific body of water. So the first things you're going to want to do, like I said, is you're going to want to do your research. You're going to want to find out, is this a sandy bottom? Is this a grassy bottom? Is this a rocky bottom? Then you're going to want to look at depth. You're going to want to find the contours in the pond. You're going to want to find where those deep ledges are. If you want to ledge fish, if you want to you know, fish deep drops or something like that, or you want to fish shallow and you want to fish grass with a spinnerbait or something like that. So you got to find out, first of all, what those largemouth are doing in a broad standpoint based on time of year and water temp. Then you got to figure out what your pond holds and how that relates to what largemouth do that type of year. So the best way to attack it is do your research, figure it out. Personally, I like to fish kind of shallower ponds, like to fish a bunch of wood, a bunch of structure. If I'm fishing smallmouth, like to fish a bunch of rock, and you know, not giant ledge drops, but like that 8 to 20 foot, that 8 to 15 foot drop. Find that rock or find that grass and fish that. So, first thing, say you got a pond like this, the one we're at right here. I fished here a couple times. I did this whole process, I don't know, it was probably like 2-3 weeks ago, right? Did this whole process, found out the depth, found out where the drops are, find out where the water column changes a bunch, found out what kind of structure I'm fishing on the bank, found out, is it a grass pond, is it a rocky ledge pond, is it man-made, is there a lot of dams, is there what kind of, try and figure out what kind of grass there is, and that gives me that big broad thing. Okay, that's that first step, right? Then I put in the equation what time of year is it? What are these largemouth doing in that 50 to 55 degree water temperature? They're in that pre-spawn mode. They're going to be chasing stuff. They're more aggressive, right? So you kind of put that all together. You see that this pond has a bunch of wood. That's going to hold heat. It's got a couple like riff-raff kind of dams. It's got some rock mixed into that wood that also holds heat, but prominently this is a pond grass fishery, right? So what I'm thinking is I'm gonna be throwing a chatterbait off the wood, I'm gonna be throwing a square bill banking off that wood, but mostly I'm gonna look at the spinnerbait and say that's probably gonna be my best option, running that through that grass for basically the whole time and try to find a pre-spawn fatty to come up and smoke the thing. So that's kind of how I dissected this pond at the start. I found out a bunch about the grass, factored in the time of year, figured out the water temp ballpark, because you're gonna get like, you'll see changes from like 55 to 58 degree water. Those fish are gonna be, they'll be pretty different, but that 50 to 55, they're gonna be pretty similar. Sometimes it might lean to that colder side, especially if it's a deeper pond with rock. They're gonna lean to that colder side, and it's gonna be more of a jerkbait, a really slow jerkbait bite. But if it's kind of this, you know, it's like super, it's not high elevation at all. It's like pretty grassy, warms up super quick. We already have a good amount of lilies coming into the pond. Stuff is growing quickly, especially when that sun hits it for 2-3 days and it's 65 degrees out. This pond's gonna go like super quick. So what you got to do is you got to factor in depth, time of year, what the largemouth are doing, and one other thing I forgot to mention is also water clarity. That kind of helps you pick your bait more. That's not really based on, that's not a giant thing when figuring out a new pond. You'll kind of get there and you'll make that decision when you see the water clarity, depending what color bait to throw. But yeah, those are basically the three major things. I'm gonna move this boat real quick. Those are basically the three major things when it comes to breaking down a new pond. What time of year is it? Depths, water temp. And then when you get there, figure out that water clarity, figure out what color you want to be throwing. And that really gives you an idea of what you're going to be fishing. And that doesn't mean you're not going to have to make changes when you get there. You for sure are, because every day is different. It's a north wind, it's blowing 20 degrees, you know, it's 35 degrees the night before, or it was 50 degrees the night before. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff that gets into it when you get here and start fishing for that specific day. But those three things that I mentioned are gonna give you a good starting point. Once you launch your boat, you're gonna have a good idea of what you're gonna be getting into. So listen to those three things, get to the pond, throw your boat in there, start figuring out, start putting a little pattern together. We're gonna go try and catch a couple right now using those exact methods that I just mentioned. Kind of give you an example of what I was talking about with that grass, with that water temp, and what the fish are doing. So let's stay tuned. I'm gonna throw the GoPro on, get you guys on the GoPro, try and go catch a few on that spinner bait. Let's go. All right, guys, we're gonna try and put that whole spiel, and we're gonna try and execute it and show you guys what I was talking about. So like I said, this is a grassy pond, right? Warms up quick, doesn't have crazy depths at all, a bunch of brush, kind of like a weird brush rock mix. I don't know if you guys can see it, but a lot of brush grows into this rock here, and there's grass basically along this whole little cut. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna stay out here a little bit, right? We're gonna make cast probably like 5-10 foot off the bank, throw this War Eagle spinnerbait, run it on top of the grass, or like through the tops of the grass. It's okay if your spinnerbait's coming up with a little bit of grass on it. Sorry, it's windy. And also windy is also a very good thing for spinnerbait bite. Kind of all bite. You know, I really like the wind just to turn things on a little bit. But yeah, we're gonna see if we can execute this right here. Show you guys, help you guys how to break down a new pond. All right, guys. We moved to another kind of spot that doesn't have that depth drop as much, and I think this might be a better spot just because these fish are kind of more in a pre-spawn mode, like kind of more in a staging mode, really thinking about spawning. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna work this shallower grass, still has a bunch of pond weed and grass in it. So we're gonna keep throwing that spinnerbait on them, and we're gonna work this whole shore, whole bank right down. See if we can get a bite. Let's go. Oh, there he is. Good one, dude. Just like I said, guys, in that grass. Nice fish, dude. That? No. Beautiful. Oh, let's go, dude. And that gives you the pattern on a new pond right there, guys. Like I said, trying to figure out as much information as you can before you get here, and then adapting to what that specific pond is holding. And that's how you kind of figure out and try and build a pattern on a new pond, guys. Obviously not a giant, but that gives you something right there that you work off of, and that leads to bigger bites and more bites. So just like I said, guys, it's all specific to each pond or lake that you're fishing, but do your research, get there, have a plan, and then execute that plan and learn from that pattern. That fish just came off like a little cattail wall with some grass that had a little drop to it, like I was mentioning earlier, and you guys got to stay on them. Appreciate you guys so much for the view. Please, guys, like and subscribe to the channel. Check out our merch on berkshirebassin.com, and if you guys are interested in a guided trip, give us a call, shoot us an email, or a direct message, and we'll get you on some better fish than this. But that's a start if you guys are looking on how to break down a new body of water for largies. Get this guy back in the drink. See you, buddy. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you on the next episode.